think you call her a bitch?
Because I did. And I said, F this situation, because she was hugged up with some dude. Like, you're not going to embarrass me like that. I'm not going to be no simp.
Ooh, baby. Listen, hey guys, welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're giving you part 2. Part 1, I spoke about insecurity. Now part 2, I'm talking about the anger in this situation. Let me just first and foremost say this. Look, for you to get to a point where you call the woman that you're liking a B word, me personally, it's like when people hit their partners, I don't get it. If I love you, I'm just not going to use that word on you. I don't think that in that particular way, in anger. But I also understand that people go through things. People are experiencing things, and so they make mistakes, right? We have to be able to have wholesome grace. But I'm going to have a real conversation because anger is something that God has been really working with me in this season, and so I'm going to really break it down and explore the dynamics when it comes to anger in this situation. For Laron to get to a point where he had to call Maya the B word, anger is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, and hostility. Or hostility, as I say. It displays when we feel like someone's gone wrong, frustration, or we feel like someone's wronged us. But the key part here, I think, for Laron is that when you feel your boundaries have been violated, and when we feel like our boundaries have been violated, our anger seethes. Now, he actually says in this episode, I'm not an angry person. And I don't think you are an angry person, Laron. I generally don't, right? But what you are is, this is what the Bible, when I was reading the Bible, God was exposing something to me in Psalms 37 verse 8, when it talks about refrain from your anger. And I love the scripture where it says about, be angry, but sin not. The anger isn't the issue. The issue is the wrath that comes from your anger, the action that usually tends to, emanate from your anger. When you have an inability to regulate your anger, inability to healthily deal with your anger, then the reactions that come out of it oftentimes are destructive. And it's really interesting because biblically this actually happens. We see the story of Moses, right? On 2 occasions. The first one is when he's coming down from the mountain and he hears that the people in Exodus have formed a cow from gold earrings and stuff and made a golden calf. And he slaps the 10 commandments onto the ground. The first actual 10 commandments, he breaks them. Pow, pow, pow. Just slaps on the ground. He's angry. And rightly so. But he slapped he couldn't put the tablets down. He couldn't put the tablets down and say, listen, all of you are getting it. He didn't. And actually from there, I think people died as well. There was a couple thousand people that died because he sent the Levites against the people, right? Number 2, the second one was actually got him in trouble because he slapped the rock with his rod. When God told him, God told him to tap it or to touch the rock, whatever, so that the water would come out for the people. But Moses was vexed. The people were vexing him up. So he took his rod, hit the rock, struck it. And the Lord said, because you've done that, you won't enter the promised land. It's mad. I can't lie to you. Sometimes I think to myself, God, how you going to do this man dirty like that? You know what I mean? You ain't going to enter the promised land. Now, of course, we can debate that and discuss that. What is that about? Anger, right? Anger, when it gets to that point where maybe Moses wasn't an angry person, but the fact of the matter is he had a hidden anger that when he was feeling like the people were being unjust and the people were being ungrateful and the people were being taking advantage of the goodness of God, he felt like he had to show the people how he felt. And in the end, he gets punished for his anger because it becomes destructive. And this is what I see with Laron. There's a hidden anger, and that hidden anger usually is a wound. Now, we know Moses' story. We know he didn't grow up with an actual father because his father was Pharaoh. We don't know who his dad was. He grew up with his mother and his sister in Egypt, but we don't actually hear about his father personally. And then he has a stepfather called Jethro, but we don't actually hear about his father. So what kind of hidden anger was he feeling when he realized that he wasn't an Egyptian? And remember, he killed someone before he left. The brother's got some problems, okay? So the daddy issues, we don't really talk about with Moses oftentimes, right? Because we don't know who his daddy was. We just know that he had an Egyptian, the Pharaoh, and then his sister and mother were his nurses at the time, right? So clearly, there's already an issue there in terms of daddy issues. How did that make him feel? We can get into that another time. But the reality is, I'm looking at Laron, and I've interviewed him, and he's spoken about his family, and you can tell that there are some issues there that have made somebody suppress. And avoidance oftentimes suppress how they feel. And I believe it's an avoidant. They suppress how they feel, and they push it all the way down. The problem with that is that it hasn't gone anywhere. It's just gone further down. And what happens is it's like a spring jack or like an elastic band. And so you squeeze it, it's compressed. And now there's a lot of energy waiting there. And all it requires is somebody to trigger that moment. Bow. And then there's an explosion of anger. And you know how I know that? Because it happened to me. And it happened to me, and I was like, I was so angry at a situation, and it's something very similar to what he expressed with Maya. And I was so angry when I didn't even shout at the person, I didn't cuss them, but they said when they saw my eyes, it was as if it was burning. I was like, you know what? Can't lie to you, because where I walked from, when I think about it, I was so vexed. I walked a good hour and a half from wherever I was, and I was angry the whole entire way. I don't get angry often. Do you get what I'm saying to you? But when I get angry, it's dynamic, meaning that I'm not gonna say anything I shouldn't say, but my eyes, the heat that rises off my body, you can feel it. You actually can feel the energy of anger in me, like it's emanating. And so when a person told me that the anger that I had, they were almost scared because of the way I was so angry but didn't do anything. I was like, oh, I think that's what I felt. That's how I felt when I was with my dad sometimes, when I was younger. And I had to apologize for my anger in that moment. I didn't say anything wild. I didn't say anything rude. I'm not that kind of person. It's never been my kind of thing. It's not my MO to say something mad and nasty. That's not how my anger works. But my look, my stare, I don't want to. Don't touch me. You hear the tone changes. It can be a scary thing because you've never seen me that way, right? So I had to also understand when God was telling me, and I was reading Psalms 37, he was telling me, listen, your anger. And I was like, I don't have anger issues. The same way Laron is like, I'm not really an angry person. But the reality of the situation, it's not about the anger where you see someone who's an angry person who's always angry. No, it's about the fact that you have a spring jack in you, and it comes from disappointment, it comes from hurt, it comes from being neglected emotionally, it comes from being wounded. And so when you're wounded, someone presses that wound, your reaction is to lash out. Now, the lash out works in different ways. Some people have different ways of lashing out. So hold on, before someone jumps on the back of Laron, this is a message for you, because the anger works in different ways for some of you. Some of you, you're not an angry person. We know you're not an angry person. You're quite patient. You seem quite enduring. You keep quite loving. But if we press that wound, some of you, your mouth, you have knives in your mouth and your tongue, and the way you talk, it cuts everybody in the vicinity. You have anger issues. You just don't know it yet. I'm letting you know. Some of you, okay, you become malicious in your actions. Yeah? So you don't cut with your tongue, but you start plotting downfalls. Yeah? You do tit for tat. You're ready to do la tete. You're ready to do some show them. If you show me, I'm going to show you. Yeah? Those people that say, if you show me, I will show you. You know they're angry. They may not do the traditional anger. They're angry. They're now about to get vindictive and malicious with you. Some people, they drift and avoid. Some people's anger is so seething that they don't even want to interact with you. They separate themselves from you. They drift. You can't contact them. You can't call them now. They don't want to hear you from you. They cut you off. And then they'll tell you, I'm a person that's got strong boundaries. I just cut people off. No, baby. You got anger issues. You just didn't know that. You got anger issues. You feel like when people are violating your boundaries, you drift and you avoid. And some people become victims. They become perpetual victims. They manipulate through their anger. They're like, oh, is that what we're doing? Okay, I'm going to show you and manipulate you and play the victim and make you feel some type of way about it. Right? There are different manifestations of the anger that plays in different ways. Choose your pick, whichever one of you guys are on that one, right? So I wanted to highlight that. So with Laron, his one is that he gets vindictive and sharp with his mouth. And now he's calling her a B word, which he should never be doing. And it's an indication of a wound that he's not dealt with, right?
You to me or call me out my name. Is that normal for you?
I don't think it's normal. I think it's bad.
Laron was heated. I'm not getting a guy's number in his face. Like, I'm just speaking to somebody at a club, a social event.
Now, obviously, he's saying that he feels like she's getting a number. She feels like she's talking to somebody in a club, right? And the reality is what I said earlier on. I said in my very first part of the video, part one of this video, right, of insecurity. I said this: playing this game with women, you never win. The club game where, I was just talking to somebody, they will always tell you a story. I'm telling you, and it's not all women. The ones who are going to do it are the insecure women. Because see, insecurity meets insecurity oftentimes, right? Insecure man meets insecure woman, all right? We have insecurities in different ways, but they normally meet each other and they mirror each other, right? So the insecure woman will definitely tell you a story like, and you may be right. Maybe she was taking this number. Maybe she was playing a game. Maybe she was manipulating you. Maybe she was trying to make you jealous, but you fell for it because now you reacted. Do you see what I'm saying to you? You can never win this game with them. Don't play the game. Don't allow yourself to. I've been there. I know it. Don't play the game. you just move on. Like, and when I say move on, you let it go. Or you address it later on when you're in a much more calmer state. But addressing it in the actual moment will always get you in a place that you don't want to be in. And now you're apologizing. Now you got Laron sitting on the couch thinking about the fact that her mum's not coming because I've said the B word. When in reality, her mum actually probably just couldn't make it. She's busy. But now you're going to start thinking about it in a different way because you've done some actions that are going to make her feel some type of way. Right? So the root of the anger is disappointment. It is frustration. It is hurt. It is pain. It is a wound. It is oftentimes some neglect that's happened to you emotionally in your childhood or physically even. And so what you're seeing is a replay of your childhood or something that's happened in your past that's very painful. Maybe you've grown up and seen some things and you see it repeating. And your anger is as a response to it shall not happen again. This time I will do something different. It is your anger is now also coming from your inability to change what happened previously, and you're trying to change it now. So now your behavior is I'm going to show them. And the anger is coming out to try and change history and change the narrative and the story that you previously experienced. But you now done it in the most incorrect way. Okay? All right? So that anger is from a wounded place, all right? And like I said, Moses had a similar thing. I want to put it this way. The anger you're going to display is oftentimes going to come from a judgment you've already made. That's the problem. The problem is that your anger is going to come from a fact that you've already made a judgment. You've already concluded what you've seen. Now, you may be right. You may be absolutely freaking right, and your anger may be just and justified, but the behavior from it or the action that comes from it may not be justifiable. I had a situation where I was so, like I said, about anger, and I had to apologize for the anger that I even displayed, even though the situation I felt like I felt like the situation was in my favor. I'm not gonna lie to you, but the reality of the situation is the anger that I showed didn't make sense because the person doesn't have my narrative that I have. Number two, no matter what, women are always going to remember how they feel. This is from a man to man now. Women are always going to remember how they feel. Now, she's going to always remember how she felt in that moment, that he was being too possessive and too controlling and too angry in that moment. Do you see what I'm saying to you? So now it's not going to be about her action. It's going to be about how she feels. You can't play this game with women. I promise you now. And I want you to take this as a lesson. I'm saying this to Laron and to anybody out there who's done something similar. You cannot play this game with women. Women always remember how they feel, not always the facts. So now you're telling the facts. She's going to be like, well, it doesn't matter because of how I felt in a situation. But how I felt in a situation. Right? And how you going to fight feelings with facts? No matter how factual you are, she's always going to feel how she feels. So it's better not to go into that space in the first place, not let your emotions override that you now do something way above your time. Now, I've never called any of my exes a B word in anger. I just don't do it. Because I have a level. I just can't do it. I need Laron to get to that level. There's actually a deeper reasoning for why he used a B word for her, right? And it stems from how he looks at women. He needs to work. He has to work on that. And I can do that maybe in a part 3 later on the week. The only reason why you're going to say the B word about your woman is because it's literally your deep. For you to get angry and hit or verbally accost your partner in such a way where you label them something, it is an indication of a devaluing process, and it's because of how you view that sex. Women do it to men too. When they're angry, they say stuff like you're a manipulator, they say you're a narcissist. They see these words to devalue, but actually it's really about how you view the actual sex, how you view the gender. And so they say these devaluing terms. Now he goes and says that she's a B word. He's devaluing not just her, but any woman that he's had previously. Because reality is, it's not her action that's causing him to say the B word. It is previous women and their actions towards you that is causing you to now say what you say to her. So if you get to a point where you can devalue your partner by verbally accosting and verbally tirading in the sense of it's almost abusive and then insulting and then or even physical abuse, it's because of the way that you view the gender. You're now not viewing them as a human at that point in time. You have to be very careful how you switch that mark on, right? So Laron needs to really work on that and tap into where does that come from? What moment in my life, in my past, am I really resenting the opposite gender that now I called her the B word? You heard him say it, like, I'm not no simp, I'm not this or that. I won't say anything else. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, click on the bell button for notification on uploads. We appreciate you guys. Stay locked, stay loaded. We really do appreciate you guys joining us on this episode. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree with my thoughts? Let me know.